Burton and I'm an aeromodeller and an engineer. Join me on a fascinating journey where I show you some of the techniques used in scale aeromodelling. So I want to glue these rail sections in final position, and what we need to do first, and this is what I was saying, you've got to try and think ahead. This is beveled, so this edge is beveled and this edge is beveled, so you've got to get them as a right and a left. So I'm going to bevel them before I fit them to the model. And what I'm going to use is some, this is the 120 grit aluminium oxide paper. Not a huge difference between the two, but it's subtle, and that's what scale's all about. Okay, I'm going to take the plunge and fit these rails. I'm not entirely happy with it. Some of the curves, etc., are not quite where I thought they'd be, but I think they're completely usable the way they are, and I'll just gently tweak them to get them perfect. So all I'm going to do is run some glue in the joints. The beauty of the glue I'm using is that it soaks right into the wood and soaks right under the joints and everything else, so it's really very good for that. I'll clean up the ends, the extra overhang, afterwards when it's all hard. The other nice thing is you don't end up with a ridge that you've got to sand away. It soaks right in and almost forms a perfect fillet, seals the joint. We'll let that dry and we'll see how we've got on. So I'm sure you've all seen a balsa stripper before. This is a Cavan one, and it has a thumb screw on one side to alter the distance between the blade and the block. So I'm just going to set it to 1/4 of an inch. What I've used is some quarter stock, put it into the tool, and then I slide it just to make sure I've got friction, but it's not cutting. The important thing with the tool is that you keep it firmly against the cutting edge, up against the stock. There you go. Simple as that. I'm going to do about 20 of these to put on the model. That's 2. That's 3. It's a bit hard towards that end. Then one more if we're lucky. theory, we should have got, that one should have been the right width as well. As you can see, about a 32nd under. So it means we were undercutting by a fraction on these. So what I intend to do is I'll use these on the rear of the fuselage. Now, Jerry Bates has specified that this should be basswood. Now, you obviously must follow the plan unless you're really comfortable and confident with what you're doing. I may be making a bit of a gamble to try and save some weight, but I do fly electric and I do accept that my models are fragile. So that's something I've decided. So please be very careful before you make a decision such as this. If a designer said basswood, then it probably should be basswood. But if you look what Dave Womersley's used, he's used virtually no strings at all. He's just relied on the sheeting. So I don't think I'm actually going on dangerous ground here. But don't go complaining to Jerry that the model has folded in half if you've used bolts of strings. You won't be impressed. All right, let's go and fit them to the model. These pins, quite brilliant. I don't know whether you can see them in the light. I've got in the trap. These are the pins, and they're really, really fine. So not like normal dressmaking pins or something like that, but they are. The needle itself is really sharp and really fine. I got mine from the Volsa cabin, but Al's Hobbies also sells them. And that's a mistake. These longer ones are at thirds, not half. So let's modify it. So this is where the slots, the notches should have been. So we'll add them. Just debating whether or not to make a new one. We've also got to lose this inside edge here. So I'll go down to bandsaw, cut that out, and I'll maybe notch these ready to, well, I'll go down to bandsaw, cut those first and see how we get on. So there, that bit is cut out. I'll just have to see if it's strong enough once these notches are added. There's at least real ply. Now, how do we get it in there? I think what's happened is these sections here are fouling it. If I take another 1/8 out of there, that's going to make it awfully thin. But it is only to support the wood. Couple of lumps out of there, let's see if that helps. Well, the real meal, that's what should be simple. But that's half the course. It might be there though. I've got a pile of quarter balsa here. Now, it's usually quite easy to tell when a piece of balsa is, is a heavy grade, and that's what I'm looking for at the moment. But the easiest way is to weigh it. That one there is 66 grams. So it's fairly simple when you get your balsa to just weigh it. And that one there's 44. And I can tell by holding it that's a lovely piece of balsa. But it's a lovely piece of balsa for the right application. Where's that gone off 0? $60. It's wandering off 0 again, isn't it? They're very old, these scales. When you get your wood, especially if you bought it online, mail order, however. $52. So the one I've gone through by hand and already thought was my hardest piece is, so once you get some experience you can figure it out. 64. You can feel the weight when you pick it up. Now I have known people go into model shops with their scales and actually do this while they buy the wood. There's nothing wrong with that. We're all a bit eccentric. And to indoor modelers, the light wood is really, really sought after, but it has to be light and strong. There's no point in going for the lightest piece of wood you can find if it's actually got no strength. This feels like a nice piece. 60. So at the moment we're looking at 60, 64 is 66 is the heaviest piece. Ooh. It's another at 66. So if you're making longer ones and stringers, which is what I'm doing, you tend to need a pretty hard wood. Right, I've got some more quarter. I'm going to go and get that out and measure that just to see how it compares, but I'm going to keep those two 66s out and I'll put the others in order back into the box. So we're still looking at 66. Oh, this one feels heavy. This feels like oak. Look at that. 118. It's nearly double the weight of the other sheets. If you're doing stringers, longer ones, spars, that's the piece of wood you want. The really nice thing about cutting your own stringers is, even though it asks for, in this case, 1/4 by 1/8, the slots are slightly larger than 1/8. 1/8 will go in, but you end up with glue around the edges, and it's much nicer if you can have a really snug fit. So cutting your own means that you can adjust the stripper so that it's a little bit more than 1/8. It's really useful. So what we're going to do here is just fit the last stringer, bottom of the fuselage side. You notice I've taken it out of the jig to do this. You see how snug they fit into these. So they're cut perfectly, just slightly oversized. Now this is that very, very hard quarter sheet balsa that I showed you in the weighing process. This was 118 grams for one sheet, when most of the sheets, the heaviest I had was 66 grams. So this was twice the weight and density of the other beasts. I've gone back to using very thin zap, as I'm not quite so confident with that other glue. Well, it's been strong enough. I was just conscious that when I removed some of the quite lightweight stringers I'd already fitted, I replaced them with stringers made from this much heavier material, just for peace of mind. There we go. That's a little bit more done on the Chipmunk. The fuselage is ready for sheeting now, more or less, with a bit of sanding down and what have you. But I think what I'll do next is I'll move on to the tailplane, because I want to get this tailplane seat sorted out. There's a lot of brackets and anchor plates to go in there that actually hold the tailplane in place and make it removable. So we'll sort that out. I also need to look at access from the front to the rear of the model for the servos, because there's no way forward at the moment. So what I want to do is, from the underneath, drill some holes and maybe run some paper tubing in to allow me to feed servo cables, lighting, that sort of stuff, because we're going to have a bit of lighting on this one as well. Alright, so I think that's about it. If you're enjoying it, click like and subscribe.